All right, Chuck, guys down in Orlando, Kyle Yanowski. I'm going to be walking you through what we built for Army 2030 and specifically the Wetgap crossing. I'm going to be using my hand menu over here to the left. I'm going to try and go as slow as possible, but the purpose of this is just a very brief overview. So obviously you guys are going to have more questions about what you see, and I can link you up with the experts who are working on the Army 2030 concept at TPO Echelons Above Brigade, or TPO EAB for short. So I'm using a MetaQuest Pro right now, and this is our alpha version of porting the Windows application for the HoloLens over to the MetaQuest and Android. So it's not working as intended, but if you've ever recorded in a HoloLens, it doesn't really work that right after about 2 minutes. So bear with me and I'll walk you through it. This is our map table. We're looking at Europe right now. This is part of the Maps plugin for Unity. So we're using, we're pointing at the servers, the map servers for Bing Maps. And that lets us do the same thing that we can do with Google Earth and overlay our own data on top of it anywhere in the world we want to go to. So with Europe, here, let's put some labels on there. And just so we can see what we're looking at. So this is a Suwałki corridor problem. It is focusing on the Niemen River, specifically in those two concentric white boxes in the center of the frame. The large box is going to be at the theater level view, and the smaller box is going to be at the Armor Division reinforced view with some spattering of core mixed in there. I suppose the thing that we need to foot stomp here is that the Wetgap crossing, which is being used down in Orlando by General Rainey, is actually part of an overall Army 2030 brief at multiple echelons. So let me walk you through it. Let's get rid of those labels. Okay, zooming into that large white box, we're now looking at the theater level view of Army 2030. A lot of these icons are new. Specifically, if you look over to the bottom left of the screen where I'm looking at right now, I'll reorient my view for you. At the theater level, we have the multi-domain task force, the theater fires command, the theater information advantage element, which handles the C2 disciplines for the theater strike effects element, the terminal high altitude air defense, and of course the C-flick. It's a multi-core fight, which is why we have two cores there just to the east of the theater level assets, and then another core just to the east of that, with the operational fires command and of course the sustainment core as well. Okay, so what we did here, obviously we talk about all the different assets of Army 2030. We highlight a lot of the different visuals that we're seeing here, including the satellite, the blue anti-access and area denial bubble, and of course the red equivalent of that. We also have different effects. So all of these effects that you're going to see as I animate this out are part of a narrative for multi-domain operations in Army 2030. So all of these effects are used to talk about the tenet of convergence. And there's a script that goes along with it. I won't waste your time here because this is a summary. But the point being is that this visual was tailored for a presentation for TPO EAB for the Secretary of the Army. At the theater level, let's get out of this view and we'll go down to core. So the core and division view, every one of these icons means something. So from the all the modernization assets that are in the umbrella of General Rainey's control, including the terrestrial layer system BCT, the future attack and reconnaissance aircraft, the MSHORAD, et cetera, et cetera. It's all here. And one of the things that we use that has been actually to pretty great effect, especially with our foreign allies and international partners, as well as interagency partners, is proximity. So when you walk up to the visual, it dissolves from the symbol into a more meaningful representation of what the symbol represents. So, the You see a long-range artillery platform for the artillery icon, and for the heavy brigade, you see a tank, so on and so forth. So it kind of just eliminates the need to send someone to CGSC for a year just to understand what these symbols mean. Of course, we have that for red as well. Okay, so ultimately we would want to see the wet gap crossing. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll set the conditions, move to both the north and south crossing sites, and then ultimately what we do is we zoom in. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll walk up to the terrain so you can see it. So this is a very rough animation of a contested wet gap crossing using SOSR principles. But ultimately, you can see the improved ribbon bridge being placed by the BEBs in the river, while the north and south sides were secured, and obscuration fire friendly was being placed on the far side. So the artillery, the narrative originally included it being coming in from enemy, because it was contested. It was supposed to highlight how dangerous a wet gap crossing will be, while we also foot-stomped that just this one northern site is committing 50% of the requested improved ribbon bridge assets for Army 2030. So one of 2 points of failure that would completely halt our operations in a European scenario. The next site, let's go ahead and go to the south site. So not as contested and a little bit further along. This site is in place. This is more of a palette cleanser from the previous visual, but we can start seeing a armor BCT start to move across the already in place site, while the MPs from the protection brigade are in place and guiding the units into their avenues that they need to be on. So again, very simple animations that can be recreated in whatever sim of choice that you want to use for BVI. But obviously, if you have more questions about what you see here, I'd be more than willing to link you up with people that can answer them either better than I, or I can fill in those gaps too. So from this crossing site, let's go ahead and pull back out. We'll go back up to the division level, where we've now established a foothold on the far side of the river. This is about the point where the Armored Division reinforced would culminate, so we'll have to pass on some other BCTs to continue the operations, ultimately where we go all the way up to restoring the international border in Lithuania. Okay, so that's about it. Hopefully this is enough for you to get started and make a decision. But I think once you have the storyboards, recreating this in OneSAF or Dexter's would probably be pretty easy for you. If you have any questions, reach out. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how to use this yet. Can I do it this hand? There we go.